Let's get started diving into this course by answering the most important question first. What is Ionic 2? Well, the goal with Ionic 2 is to create apps for iOS, Android or Windows. And I'm speaking of native apps, so apps running on those devices, installed on those devices. Now, chances are you don't know Swift, Objective-C and Java and the Android framework and C#. You don't know all those languages you would need to know to develop apps for all those platforms. You might know one or the other platform, but maybe you don't even know that. But you do know JavaScript, HTML and CSS because you probably do know how to develop web apps. Now it would be nice if you could kind of take that knowledge, take those web apps and transform them into native apps for iOS, Android and Windows. Now it turns out there is a helpful tool, a framework which does just that. And it's not Ionic 2, it's Apache Cordova, a framework by Apache. And what this framework does is it compiles JavaScript, HTML, CSS apps, so web apps, into iOS, Android or Windows apps. Now, of course, those apps have to follow a certain structure and be set up in a certain way. But if that is the case, Apache Cordova is able to easily create those native apps for you. Now, where does Ionic 2 come into play though? Because this course is not about Apache Cordova. Well, chances are you don't want to create your web app with vanilla JavaScript, HTML and CSS, but you do know Angular, specifically Angular 2 here, which is a great framework allowing you to create reactive web applications. Now, we already have a way of compiling Angular 2 code, you could say, so TypeScript code into JavaScript, HTML and CSS code, so of creating such web applications. Still, Ionic 2 is introduced as an extra step between Angular 2 and the web app Cordova, iOS, Android, Windows part here. What Ionic 2 does is it gives you some tooling which allows you to create projects following that structure Apache Cordova needs in the end. It will also compile your Angular TypeScript code into a native or into a vanilla JavaScript, HTML, CSS project following that structure Cordova needs. And it also gives you a rich component library with beautifully styled components you will need for your mobile apps. So like, for example, some nice modals, alerts, sliders, tabs, and so on. And a lot of convenience tools, helper methods, and much more. So this is what Ionic 2 is. A package, a tool set, a command line interface in the end, which we will install, which allows you to easily create pre-configured projects, a workflow which will compile your Angular code and which will also then trigger this Apache Cordova compilation so that you never have to work with Apache Cordova directly, and this rich library of convenience tools and these components you can use. And that is all we need to know about it for now. We will see all those things in action soon.